Hi, folks. We're back.
Hi, folks. That's me, Mr. Jimmy. Also, Larry, I just want to make sure the people know to always hit like, share, subscribe, and make sure you ring that bell. Larry, the last segment we had, I believe that you may have overlooked the fact that it was Vinny Hogan is the one who was actually instrumental in getting your license back. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're correct. You told me about it before. You're correct. I forgot. That's what happens when I ramble on and I don't stick to the story. And that's going to happen to you someday in another 20 years. You're going to start forgetting all of these
Well,
things.
I'm 65, Larry.
Well, I'm 85. So now Vinny did get my license. He told the commissioner, who was his underling when they were detectives, just send the applications. And he sent the applications. And without no hearing, which is required before you get reinstated, you're supposed to have a hearing in front of the full commission. But because of Vinny, there was no hearing, just got my license. But that created a problem about a year later when I applied for my license in New Jersey. I just figured that I got my license in New York, and I applied for both standardbreds and thoroughbreds, which I got. And when I applied in New Jersey, Zanzuki, who was the commissioner in New Jersey, he was one of them crew-cut, straight and narrow, straight-laced guys that everything by the book. He said, okay, I received your application, but I don't have any information on the hearing. Well, I couldn't tell him that there was no hearing. I just says, well, then, I don't handle that. I don't know what to tell you. He says, I know what to tell you. You never had a hearing. How'd you get your license?
Wow.
And I says, look, all I know is I filled out my application. They granted me a license. I don't know how. And he says, well, until I have information on how your hearing went and where it was and who was there, you're not going to be licensed here. Well, needless to say, I don't even know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it anyway because I don't care. $60,000 later, I got my license. And the attorney told me, he says, you have a hearing at the Meadowlands downstairs with the Racing Commission. And I says, listen, I did everything you asked me to do. I paid you whatever you wanted. I don't know where the money went. I don't care where the money went. But I'm going to tell you one thing. They better not ask me any questions pertaining to what happened years ago, because I'm not answering them. So I go to the hearing, and there's the three commissioners there at the bottom room at the Meadowlands Racetrack. And they says, okay, just fill out this paperwork. I filled out all the paperwork and everything. And they said, okay, there's something I need to ask you. And I said, uh-oh, here goes. And he says, I need you to answer this question. What is it? Did you learn your lesson? Yes. We hereby grant you your license. And that's how it went.
That was great.
And that's how it went.
That was great.
So I did get my license, but unfortunately the whole game changed. I mean, I went back I went back with the thoroughbreds first because there was a friend of mine. I'll get into that whole story with the thoroughbreds. It's a great story, but I'm not gonna tell it now. And the reason I'm not gonna tell it now is because going through all the paperwork to try to figure out what stories to tell, and the biggest problem is what stories I told already. I just don't remember. I ran across a photograph that was given to me a couple of years back, and it's a winner's circle picture of me driving a horse called Colonial Bird. The owner of that horse was Ralph Gigante, and I got him his license between Monticello and Pompano Park.
Isn't that the brother of the famous
Ralph Gigante? Ralph Gigante was the son of Ralph Gigante Jr. was the son of Ralph Gigante,
his brother was the chin, correct?
Right.
Right.
So there was
No,
was Ralph, and
they
then
had
the other.
some crew. I mean, they were very disciplined. When they made a guy, you didn't know about it till 2 years later. Very, very top notch.
Look,
They're impeccable.
I could just tell you that to me they were my friends, and Ralph lived with me for 4 or 5 years, and he was a good guy, good kid. He's 20 years younger than me, but he's just a good kid. And I signed for his license. I got him his license. I got him all his qualifying drives and everything. And one day, I put him on a horse to qualify for the final drive, and he made it. And he come back and he says, I want to buy that horse. And I says, Ralph, I says, this Katie owns this horse. He says, I love this horse. I want to buy him. So I talked to Larry Kadish, and Larry Kadish agreed to sell the horse. So Ralph calls up his father, and his father sends down, I think it was $30,000. And he sends down the money, and Ralph owns the horse. Now, Ralph is waiting for his driver's license to come in the mail, and we entered the horse. Now, during this time, Ralph is right at my side every day for years, and I'm teaching him all the finer points of training, how to train, when to train, how to treat horses both mentally and physically, and how to treat certain ailments and what works, what don't work, and the whole bit. And he was really good. But he couldn't drive this one horse because he didn't get the license yet, so he put me down to drive. And the day before he was in to go, after he jogged, I told Ralphie, I says, just do the usual, which I do with most of my horses, especially one that has a little bit of a problem with their feet, which probably, if you really checked it, 99 and 9/10 of the horses, including thoroughbreds, have a problem with their feet.
Right.
And most of the time it's the primary problem, but the primary problem creates a secondary problem, which everybody thinks the secondary problem is really the primary problem, and they don't bother with the feet. But the day before the race, I always get these burlap sacks that the oats come in, and we create a big poultice and poultice the hole from the ankle down and put the bag around him and a bandage on top. So now the horse is standing there until the following day when he races with this poultice, which is drawing all the heat out and everything else. And so what happened was some kid, and I don't know who it was, they called up his father because that whole family, like I said, to me, they were family. I knew them all. I mean, the whole, in fact, everybody calls me old time wing. And when you going to say something about Louis? Louis come up to Monticello about the same time I did. We become very close. And for the next 10 years, we were basically inseparable, did everything together. And except Louis never knew what I was doing. That part of my life, I always kept separate and apart from everybody. In fact, Louis, at that time, I was going out with a girl called Aura. She had a sister, Helen. And there was a period of time.
She had an aura about her, right?
No, that was her name. Don't confuse me. Her name was Aura. She had a sister, Helen. I went out with Aura, and Louis started going out with Helen. And one day we were in his father's house, his father and mother, and his father, Mario. His father was Mario Gigante. And that was Louis' father. And he's starting to talk about having a double wedding and all that kind of crazy stuff. And I nixed that right away. But just let me mention this. Louis' mother spotted a thing on her breast, a big purple spot. And she wound up getting surgery. I think it probably wound up saving her life because it was a big hunk of malignant tumor they took out.
Wow.
But anyway, now back to Ralph. So now the horse is in the go, and I'm down the drive, and somebody made a phone call to Manhattan, to New York, And they said that the horse was dead lame, that they saw him in the stall with these big poultice boots on him, and he couldn't walk and this and that. I never knew that until the morning of the race. A cab pulls up. Who gets out of the cab? Ralphie's father.
Wow.
He gets out of the cab, and Ralph says, "Dad, what are you doing here?" And he says, "You." He points to me, in the room. I go in the room. What's the matter? What's the matter? You made my son buy this fucking
horse that's
piece of
lame,
shit
right.
that can't walk and everything else.
And he doesn't know nothing about horses.
He only knows what he was told. Now that family, to me they were family. But I'll tell you, you don't want to do anything wrong. As long as they do what they do, I do what I do, and stay respectful and everything else, and everything will be fine. And they even told me about the kids, Louis and Ralph. Just keep them out of trouble. Do whatever you can to help them, but
do the right thing.
Just do the right thing. And me and Louis got along great for the 10 years that we were up there. So anyway, he says, you made my son buy this horse. You made me send down this fucking money. I says, it's a nice horse. Nice horse? This fucking horse don't win tonight. You're going to have a major problem. And he gets out and walks out. Dad, I'll see you tonight. And that's why when people say, you've been in the business for so long, how come you only won 1,000 races out of the maybe 20,000 starts or whatever? And my answer to that was, I win the races I have to win.
Right.
That's my answer to that. Now, this race here is a race I had to win. And he won. So the reason I mentioned this story was the kid died. Ralphie, he died. Complications of cancer and the virus thing, and it was sad. He was such a good guy. When I got barred in '84, he had gone to the waterfront. His cousin Andrew was boss down there. Between Andrew and Sal, they ran that whole waterfront down there with Maersk Lines or whatever. And he says, "Come with me down there." He says, "You'll make a lot of money." And I didn't go, and he begged me to go. And I says, "No, I'm going to try to fight this thing." He says, "You're not going to win." I says, "I got to fight. I can't just walk away." And he wound up staying down there. Andrew was the boss, his cousin Andrew, who was Jen's son, and Louis left the business too. Louis wound up going into the limousine business, and now he owns 2 or 3 very successful restaurants. And Louis a good guy. The only problem I ever had with Louis was that he got all the girls. He was just a handsome kid, and all the girls were after him. And I had to go to the Concord and look for these old.
You never had
Jewish
no problem. You always got your dance card filled.
Louis was the guy. He was good, and but today he's very successful. He's happily married. He has a couple of kids. A good-looking kid opened up another restaurant. I seen him on Facebook. I haven't seen them in a long time. But they're, like I said, to me, their family and their father Mario just died last year. I'll tell you. I met just about every top guy, and to me, there were 2 that stood out, and Mario was one of them. When it comes to dressing, when it comes to just appearance, and just the way he carried himself, and the way he had respect for everybody, and he just terrific. And the other one was Tough Tony Federici from Corona, from Parkside. I know him since I'm a kid. Them two guys, as far as I was concerned, were the cream of the crop of the mob world, whatever you want to call it. To me, they were friends. And and Mario. Let me tell you a story about Mario real quick. I never went to Mario with all my never ever did I ever go to Mario. I went someplace else, but I never went to Mario, because Mario was the kind of guy that would say, "Why didn't you come to me?" And I didn't want to put him on the spot because I did the wrong thing. And you can't go to one of them guys if you're wrong, and you just can't do it. And I respected that, and I didn't do it. But what happened one day was there was a kid that when I was in trouble in the 70s, I needed money. I think I needed 10,000 really bad, and I made this kid go up to the Brooklyn. He was from Brooklyn. He went to I think it was a place called the 18th hole or 19th hole in Brooklyn. And there was a guy there.
It's on 86th Street.
There was a guy there that
then it became the Misfit Lounge.
Was a big Shylock. Anyway, he borrowed. He was able to get 10,000. Now back then, you got to understand that it was easy to get 10,000. They mentioned my name. They knew who I was. I was in big action. He got the 10,000. And every week I would give him the money, and he would go up there and make the payments and everything else. Well, this kid wound up dying, and had nothing to do with nothing. He just died of colitis or something. And I went up there once to Brooklyn. I didn't even know what the guy looked like, and I asked for him. And I says to the bartender, "Is so-and-so here?" I forgot the guy's name. And says, "There's no so-and-so here." Now, I knew that was going to happen because they don't know if I'm a cop. They don't know who I am. So they're not going to give the guy up there. Even if he was standing right there, they wouldn't say nothing. I went back up there 2 or 3 times. I could never get him. And one day I get a call from my mother. My mother says, "You got to come here right away." She was crying. She says, "There was a man that came here and threatened to kill me and blow up the house and put it on fire and this and that and everything else if I don't have his money tonight." Says, "You owe him $10,000. And she was telling me, "I don't have the 10,000. I said, don't worry about that. I'll straighten it out." I drove right up to Brooklyn. Same thing. Don't know who he is. I didn't know what to do. The first time ever, I went to Mario Gigante, went to his house, and I told him the whole story. He says, "All right." He says, "Go to work." I went to work. It wasn't long after that I get paged, and it's him. "Come to the house." I go to the house. This is probably 2-3 hours later. Who's sitting in the chair? A guy. And he's sitting there, and 2 guys next to him. And there's Mario, who let me in. He says, "That the guy?" "Yeah." He says, "You see this? You went to his house and threatened his mother to burn the house down?"
He says, "Not supposed to do that."
Whatever he owes you, it's clear.
Right.
And if you ever see him, you turn around and run. So I says, "Mario, shut up." Because I just wanted to pay the guy. "Shut up." And then Mario says, "Get him out of here." And they take him out. I don't know what they did with him, but and that was the end of that. That's
some story.
That's how I don't know how he found them so fast, but he was there within 2 or 3 hours. He was there. And Mario was just a good guy, and you'd never know it. I mean, he wasn't a big guy. He was just maybe, I don't know, 5'10", something like that, 5'11", but just a sharp guy. Dressed good, always polite, mannered, a really good guy. And Louis the same way, Andrew the same way, Ralphie the same way, Sal the same way. The other Sal the same way. They were just good guys. Whatever business they had, that to me they were my friends, and they were good guys. And I feel terrible about this Ralphie. He was just a good kid, had a good job, and I'll tell you something else about Ralphie. He had a kid. He has two sons. One of them, about 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, he got in a car accident, and he was brain dead. He was like in a coma. And for maybe 10, 15 years, every weekend, Ralph would drive up there to the hospital and sit with him all day long. In the summer months, he would put him in a wheelchair. The kid didn't know who he was or nothing. He just, every weekend. It was unbelievable. He just dedicated his life to that kid who was basically in a coma and didn't know if he was there or not there.
Wow.
And I begged him, and I researched this for him years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And I called him up one day and I says, Ralph, I have the answer. Get him in a hyperbaric chamber, because hyperbaric chamber is the best thing for brain injuries and everything else. And but I think it was too far gone. I think he asked about that and everything. But he's an unbelievable father, unbelievable friend, and just a good kid that didn't deserve. And by the way, this horse, the next week when Ralph got his license, he drove him and he won.
And he won.
And he won. And then I was in good graces with the father again. So that's
great stories.
That's a story about Ralph Gigante, who's up in heaven now, and he's a good kid. He's with his father. His father died many years back. His uncle Mario died. His uncle Vincent died. That whole family is dead. Louis still alive and doing well. Sal is doing well. Andrew's doing well. They're all doing well, but they lost the fathers. All the fathers are gone. It's a shame, and they're good kids. In fact, I don't know if this is true. This is just what I was told. When Andrew took over the Piers, Andrew Gigante, that's the Chin's son, and they were having a terrible problem. Maersk Lines was of stuff being robbed. They were robbing the ports like crazy. The Waterfront Commission tried to get Andrew out of there 24/7 for years and years and years. And Maersk Lines, they said, we ain't had one thing missing since he started here. Never had a problem. No robberies, no nothing.
No thievery,
and
right?
We're keeping him. And there was really no reason to fire him. I mean, Andrew was 100% ran that place like you couldn't believe, and everybody respected him, probably because of his name when he first got there. But then he proved to be a capable guy that was able to run that whole place. And then when Ralphie went there, he taught Ralphie, and that thing was running like a clock. Louis went the other way with the restaurants and the limos and everything else, and but that's why the Waterfront Commission couldn't get rid of them, because they just were 100% honest. They weren't involved with anything that their fathers did or what the family did, and that's it. They're good friends, and I miss Ralphie a lot. He's a good kid.
They're good stories.
That's it. See ya. I'm done.
Everybody, just remember, always hit like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell and tell a friend. Good night, everybody. See you next time.